to see new faces from a different continent of the world. It's exciting. As Hannah said, and Gadi, we'll be talking today about Tisha B'Av. And I want to share together with you a screen with a slideshow. 1 second here. Now, 1 moment. Okay, so I assume you can see on your screen the slideshow, right? It says Tisha B'Av. You see it big over here. Ken, you can see it? Wonderful. Okay, so we'll speak about, we'll talk now about Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av, I assume that some of you know, or maybe all of you know, it's a day that we remember the destruction of the first temple, the second temple, and we'll see in a second even way more than that. Usually when people speak about Tisha B'Av, they speak mainly about what we can do. We speak about the fast. We speak about you can't eat, you can't drink. But Tisha B'Av has way more significance only from the perspective that it's not only halakha, it's not only what you can't do. It's also trying to understand a little bit more the concept and the idea of what it means to mourn, what it means to be part of a nation that remembers something that happened such a long time ago, and what it means to have a historical perspective on life. And I think that part of being part of Israelites, part of being the concept of being someone that is connected to the Jewish nation is in the biggest perspective is to remember. It's called in Hebrew zikaron, lizkor. And it's a really important word, and it's a really important idea that we try to realize and understand that remembering something is totally different than talking about something. Because when you remember something, it's like it's like reliving the thing again and again and again. Because remembering, zikaron, is something that is alive, and history is something that happened a long time ago. Now, the Western world, or maybe in general, our world, is a world that is focused mainly on history. It's a world that is focused mainly on facts. What happened and what didn't happen. And did someone basically documented the things that happen, and then we can learn and read about what happened a long time ago, or and therefore we can try and fight and try to understand and disagree or not disagree what actually happened in history. But zikaron is different. Zikaron is something that happened way back ago, but it doesn't really matter if it happened way back ago, because we feel and we can realize and we can understand that it's happening also right now. It's something that we're living it in this moment. Tisha B'Av, together with Pesach, I would say, is the main day of Zikaron in the Jewish calendar. In Pesach, we remember Yetziat Mitzrayim. In Tisha B'Av, we remember something else. We remember the destruction of the temple, and we also remember the part of being being part of a bigger picture, of a bigger idea that is actually happening right now, this moment in the world. So first of all, let's speak about facts. Let's speak about what is it? What are actually the halachot of Tisha B'Av? What is exactly Tisha B'Av? And after we will understand that, we'll try also to speak a little bit more about what we are supposed to do during Tisha B'Av and during this really interesting and unique year. So let's see. So first of all, the 9th of Av, Tisha B'Av, commemorates a list of catastrophes in the Jewish history. Tradition holds that this day must therefore be a day of especially cursed by God, and we'll speak about it in a second. What it means, a day that is cursed by God. Tisha B'Av is never observed on Shabbat. If Tisha B'Av falls on Saturday, the fast is postponed until the 10th of Av. That's actually happened last year. Last year, Tisha B'Av happened on Shabbat, and we fasted on Sunday. Why? Because we don't fast on Shabbat. Shabbat is the day when HaKadosh Baruch Hu said that he's resting, and the days that HaKadosh Baruch Hu said that this day is the holy day, and therefore, in Jewish tradition, we celebrate holiness through eating and drinking. You can understand from that when you don't eat and drink, it's a different type of day. It could be a day that is way more holier than usual, and that's Yom Kippur, that we don't eat and drink. But it could be also a day that is unholy, or it could be a day that is unsimple, or a day where basically the rest of God that started in Shabbat it became a catastrophe, and that's actually what happened on Tisha B'Av. So let's see what's the history, what's the historical story that we can try and learn from. Sorry. In the year 13 BCE, the Israelites are in the desert, recently having experienced the miraculous Yetziat Mitzrayim, Exodus, and now poised to enter the promised land. That night, the night of our people cry out of worry that it will be slaughtered by the Canaanites. God displeased by this public demonstration of disturbing God's power, keeps that generation of Israelites from entering to the Holy Land. Only the children have the privilege after wandering in the desert for another 38 years. So the story of Tisha B'Av doesn't start with Jerusalem. The story of Tisha B'Av doesn't start with Am Yisrael, basically with Am Yisrael losing the first and second temple. The story of Tisha B'Av starts actually in the desert. What happened in the desert? Am Yisrael, the Torah tells us a story. That Am Yisrael basically said that we have no chance. Am Yisrael lost hope. The Meraglim, they went to the land of Israel to try and see what actually is happening over there, and to go back and to tell to tell the nation that HaKadosh Baruch Hu promised us, that God promised us a fruitful land, and God promised us a land that will be able to enter the land and everything will be fine. But the thing that happened, something happened during their time in the land of Israel, and they're coming back, and 10 of them are basically bad mouthing, and they are telling and they're focusing on the bad, and they're focusing on the challenges instead of focusing on the bright side. And the thing that happens right then, everyone is losing hope. And I think that's one of the main points of Tisha B'Av. Am Yisrael lost hope. Am Yisrael lost hope that they actually have a chance to enter the land, that they actually have a chance to finish wandering in the desert and to enter a land of milk and honey. And by losing hope, and by losing their perspective that God promised the land, and therefore we will enter the land and will be able and capable to basically to win and to exceed every challenge that actually is waiting for us. By losing this hope, something broke. In some way, when you lose hope, when you lose your faith in God, so a little bit, not 100%, but a little bit, also God loses his faith in you. And Am Yisrael was severely punished And 38 years afterwards, he is still punished. And only the children of the peoples that cried in the desert, only their children entered the land of Israel. Only because Am Yisrael lost hope. So Tisha B'Av, first of all, is losing hope. Is losing hope that we can actually enter the land of Israel. Is losing hope that we are capable to see challenges and actually believe in God that He will help us to fulfill our potential and to exceed over the challenges. Second thing that happened in Tisha B'Av, the first temple was also destroyed on Tisha B'Av. The first temple is probably the most important structure that Am Yisrael ever had. Before the temple, we had the Mishkan, the tabernacle, but afterwards, HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells, or David HaMelech basically comes to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and tells him something beautiful. He says, listen, I feel uncomfortable. I built a house for me as a king, but you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you don't have a place in this world. You don't have a place where everyone can be focused and everyone knows that is the place to worship God. You sit in a tent. The place that was till then was a mishkan, was a tabernacle, was a tent. But me, a king, I'm sitting in a beautiful, big brick house that basically everyone looks at and everyone says, "Oh wow, it's so beautiful." So Kadosh Baruch Hu listened, and he said, "If you came, David HaMelech, and you told me that you want to build a temple, so it's okay, it's fine. Why? Because you understood by yourself, you realized that you should build a Bet Mikdash." Yeah, no problem. I'll afterwards I will send the PowerPoint to everyone, no problem. Kadosh Baruch Hu basically came and you want me to send right now or afterwards? Send our email after, no problem. So Kadosh Baruch Hu comes and tells to David, you showed me that you want to worship me. You showed me that you want to build me a house. So I give you permission. But I don't give you a permission. I'm asking that your son, Shlomo, Amelech Shlomo, King Solomon, he will build my house. He will build Bet HaMikdash. And we know that Shlomo HaMelech was basically the smartest person in the Tanakh, the smartest person in the Bible, and when he got the opportunity, he gathered all the most talented builders and all the best products, and he built a house to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And this house, Bet HaMikdash, was the center of knowledge and joy and Avodat Hashem and God worshiping of the world. That was basically maybe the only moment in Jewish history when we actually fulfilled our destination. The house of God was the center of religious work, was the center of God worshiping, not only of us, not only of the Jews, not only of the Israelites, but people came from all over the known world to worship God in Bet HaMikdash. That was basically the days of King Shlomo are considered in our tradition to be the best days we ever had. After Shlomo died, so things started to decrease, and after almost 300 years, Am Yisrael sinned so much that Kadosh Baruch Hu destroyed Bet HaMikdash. But the main reason why Kadosh Baruch Hu destroyed Bet HaMikdash is because there was no hope. No one actually believed that Bet HaMikdash has meaning already, because everyone understood that the nation we're sinning. Everyone understood it became a game. It became a place where you can sacrifice maybe, or you can pray, but in some ways, even after you sacrificed and even after you prayed to God, so they behaved in an unmoral way towards each other. Even after you sacrificed and you prayed to God, so they went. So when they left Bet HaMikdash, they they worshipped different idols. Everyone understood it's a game. Everyone understood that this house has no hope. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu destroys the Bet HaMikdash. He brings the Babylonians, King Nebuchadnezzar, and his servants, and then and they destroy Bet HaMikdash on Tisha B'Av, the same date. 5 centuries later, 69 CE, the second temple was destroyed. It took actually 2 days for the second temple to be totally to go totally into a mess, totally into destruction. But after 2 days, basically that started into Tisha B'Av, everything collapses, and again we have over here this tragedy. Afterwards, when the Jews rebelled against the Romans' rule in 133 CE, the Jewish rebels were brutally butchered in the final battle of Beitar. And this happened when? This happened on Tisha B'Av. 1 year after this conquest of Beitar, the Romans plewed over the Temple Mount, the nation's holiest site, and basically made it like a field. And basically, this site that was maybe the Bet Mikdash, maybe the temple was ruined, but the site still stayed a holy site. So the Romans decide to basically to make it a field and to destroy any evidence, almost every evidence that we ever had a temple over there. The Jews were expelled from England in 2019. In 2090 CE on Tisha B'Av. Again, the same date. In 1492, that is a really, really important year in the history of the world, the golden age of Spain came to close when Queen Isabella and her husband Ferdinand ordered the Jews to be banished from the land. The Hebrew date on which no Jew was allowed any longer to remain in the land was the Tisha B'Av. In World War II, that's a terrible Holocaust, is often considered to be by historians to be basically the worst part, the worst thing that happened in the history of the world. Germany declared wars, started World War II on Russia, setting the First World War into motion on Tisha B'Av. During the Shoah, the first trains to go east to Auschwitz in 1942 did so on the eve of Tisha B'Av. We can see over here something that is actually quite fascinating. A lot of things during our entire history, from the time when Am Yisrael was in the desert till almost our days, happened on Tisha B'Av. It looks like this day is a day that all of our suffering is basically focused to this date. It's quite interesting how it actually works. Because as Jews, as Israelites, we do not believe in the concept of luck. There's a famous idea that says "En mazal Yisrael." We don't have any luck, because luck is connected to coincidence. Luck is connected to the stars, to astrology. We have no luck because we are, En mazal Yisrael. We have no luck. We are connected basically to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We're connected to Hashgacha, to HaKadosh Baruch Hu overlooking on us, to God overlooking on his nation. So if so many things happen on Tisha B'Av, it's not a fluke. We need to ask ourselves, what is so significant in this date that everything is basically being pushed to Tisha B'Av? I think that part of the answer is connected not only to us and not only to God, but also to the deep understanding of the nations, what it means to be Jewish. The deep understanding of the nations, what it means to be part of the Israelites, what it means to be part of this unbelievable historical tribe that basically survived everything. Everyone understands and everyone knows that when you have someone that is important, if you want to deal with someone important, you don't just do stuff. When you prepare before you meet like a governor, you need to go to a meeting with the governor. You need to go and and meet even worse to meet for the first time your in-laws. That's quite terrifying. So you think about every detail. Every detail is basically being planned. Every detail is basically is being taken into consideration. With which type of clothes of clothes you will come, what you will actually say, which jokes you should not say when you meet your in-laws, and you go on and and it goes on and on and on and on and on. Everything is precise. Why? Because you understand that dealing with the in-laws is not a joke. And when you deal with your in-laws, everything needs to be important. It's even more than that. For example, and everyone knows that. Every married person knows that. The biggest sin, it's not the biggest sin, but it's a big problem if you forget your marriage date. If your marriage day came and you didn't do something that is unique, you didn't do something that is important, you didn't even say to your wife, or you didn't say to your husband, you remember today we got married 25 years ago, 18 years ago, 10 years ago, you're in big trouble. It's a meaning. They have a significance. And when you show that you remember this date, so you showed that you deeply understood this date is not stam. This date has a reason. This date has a meaning. It's not only us that we actually understand that Tisha B'Av has a meaning. That Tisha B'Av has a meaning from the days of Am Yisrael, of the Israelites walking in the desert. Also the nations understand that. In some ways, every time when the nations do something bad to us on Tisha B'Av, they're trying to connect and they're trying to tell us there's no hope. The same way Am Yisrael lost hope in the desert, so the nations are trying to rub it in our face. They're trying to tell us, listen, there's no hope. Listen, you cannot succeed. Maybe you succeeded till now, but right now it's finished because there's really there's no hope. If you would look carefully on the background over here, I assume that you see that they put a picture of the kotel and the mosque. For a lot of people, the mosque is a symbol, and we need to try and understand why. And I think it's an important thing to say. The mosque is a symbol of, like, saying Am Yisrael, our place is in the kotel, and the Muslim place or the Arab place is in the mosque. The mosque is above, and we are lower. we only pray to the Western Wall, and we don't we don't actually want to fulfill the prophecies of rebuilding Bet HaMikdash, of rebuilding the house of prayers to all the nations. But it's a mistake. Because one thing Tisha B'Av proves more than everything is the fact that we still mourn, that we actually still mourning on Tisha B'Av, and we'll see in a second what we are supposed to do or what we are not supposed to do on Tisha B'Av. The fact and the main thing that Tisha B'Av can teach us and is teaching us that we remember. We have zikaron. Anachnu zochrim. We remember. And when you remember something for such a long time, so you truly and you really understand the significance of the day. And in some ways you show to everyone and also towards yourself that maybe some people claim that there's no hope, but the fact that you remember means that there's a lot of hope. That is the reason why, according to tradition, Tisha B'Av is not only the day of the destruction of the temples, and not only the day that all the bad stuff happened, but it's also the day that every year and year, the potential of the Mashiach is being reborn. Every year and year, this idea that Am Yisrael will have a Mashiach. Mashiach means Am Yisrael will have a Geulah. Am Yisrael will rebuild his entire stature. Am Yisrael will rebuild a house of prayer for all of nations on Har HaBayit, on the Temple Mountain. This concept is reborn every year on Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av is a sad day because a lot of sad stuff happened. But a nation, and now I'll tell you a short story. I don't know if you ever heard about it, but it's a story that is a known one. One of the biggest French governors and basically one of the biggest rulers of the world of the world was Napoleon. Now, I don't know if this story is true or not true, but it's a beautiful story to tell. So basically, I would tell it, but I don't know if it's actually accurate in terms of history. So Napoleon had basically a soft spot towards Jews, and he actually liked Jews. And one day he walked during the main street of Paris in France, and he saw the shul, and he heard everyone is crying. He entered the shul and asked what happened. Did someone try to harm you? Did someone try to do something bad to you? They told him, no, we're crying on the destruction of our temple. So he said, when it happened? So they told him 1,800 years ago. So he said, a nation that knows to cry 1,800 years on something, so it's promised and it's known that at the end of the days, they will rebuild themselves. And that's a really important message. The difference between zikaron, to remember, and history is that history happened and we have nothing to do with it already because it happened. We cannot change the past. But a zikaron is something that happens right now. And since it's something that happened that we feel right now, so we have the power to take the zikaron, to take the fact that we do remember and to reshape it towards something that can actually change the future, that can actually change the entire perspective on life and the entire perspective on our world. So after we said that, let's see what actually we are supposed to do or not to do on Tisha B'Av. Okay? So let's start. So let's start from stage by stage. First of all, when we gather together in the synagogue. I don't know what happens when we gather together in the synagogue. So basically, lights in the synagogue are dim. כן? נמשיך? Lights of so basically, lights of the synagogue are dimmed, the candle are lit, and the curtain is removed from the ark. The cantor leads a prayer in basically in a low and a voice and a tune that sounds a little bit mourning. The book of Vicha is read both at night and in some communities also during the day. In the murmuring, the Torah portion, so we read an important Torah portion that speaks about destruction, containing the prophecy regarding the Israel's future equality and exile. That is followed by the Haftarah from Irmiyah. Irmiyah is one of our biggest prophets. Jeremiah, Irmiyah is one of our biggest prophets, and he saw in his own eyes the destruction. He also wrote the book of Vicha that we read at the night of Tisha B'Av evening. And this book is a really hard book to read. It speaks about the beautiful city. Once upon a time, what a city that had children, that had adults, that had playing all over and had economy and had everything. And Nehemiah sees this beautiful city basically being destroyed. And he writes the book of Vicha. And since then, we read the book of Vicha every year on Tisha B'Av. During the morning prayer, we don't put on talit and tefillin, because talit and tefillin represent the glory of God, and therefore we don't wear them because we feel that we cannot be connected to this glory during this terrible day. The most important thing is that Tisha B'Av is a fasting day. It's an important fast. The fast starts from the day from the night before, like Yom Kippur. It's an important thing to say that this year is a unique year. As everyone knows, there is a disease in the world, and there is a plague, and therefore everyone is weaker. And even if you don't feel weak, even that you feel that you're 100% strong, still, it's really, really important to keep our body in a really, really, really good shape. So if someone feels a little bit sick, if someone feels that the fast will be too much for him, so he should drink or she should drink. If a woman is nursing, she should drink. Children, no fasting at all. Adults above 65, no fasting at all. This year is a unique year because it's a year of a plague. And therefore, we need to listen carefully to what reality tells us and to what God is trying to speak with us through reality, and understand that our job as part of the Israelites, way more than everything else, is v'chai, is to be mekayem mitzvot through life, and not to try and harm ourselves. In Jewish religion, we don't harm ourselves from mitzvot. Mitzvot is only living is basically living life in a more fruitful way. And if you have a mitzvah that you feel that there's a chance that will harm you, so you're not obligated at all. And that's also connected this year to Tisha B'Av. If you think in any way that fasting this year will harm your immune system, so you shouldn't fast. And if you're old, if not old, but if you're above the age of 65, you shouldn't fast. And women that are pregnant or women that are nursing shouldn't fast. And children shouldn't fast. Why? because our job as part of the Israelites is v'chai b'hem. It's to live and not to harm ourselves. Other religions, they claim that showing dedication to God is harming yourself, is harming your body. In Jewish religion, it's exactly the opposite. So in a normal year, it's not too bad to fast 25 hours. It's okay. But this year, fasting 25 hours could be dangerous. So therefore, think carefully on the actions. Think carefully if it's the correct decision to take or it's not the correct decision to take. But there's also different restrictions on Tisha B'Av. Okay? One main restriction and one main thing that we don't do during Tisha B'Av, we don't take a shower. Again, this year, since there is a plague, hygiene is really, really important. And washing your hands is really, really important. So every year, we don't wash our hands on Tisha B'Av. This year, it's a mitzvah to wash your hands during Tisha B'Av because the laws are v'chai b'hem. You need to live and not to harm yourself. I will send a presentation so you can read also afterwards what else to do. Before you start fasting, there's a tradition to eat Suda Mafseket. Suda Mafseket is basically a meal that basically you say, now I'm mafsik, now I'm ending eating and drinking, and I'm basically starting to fast. So there's a beautiful tradition to eat during the Suda Mafseket an egg. Why? Because an egg has two symbols. First of all, the round shape reminds us the sign of the cycle of life. One time period we're down, and another time period Kadosh Baruch Hu helps us, and we are up. And also the egg is the only food which gets harder the more it is cooked. And that's a symbol of the Jewish people ability to get harder and harder and harder as the time goes on. We get stronger. Let's go on. Okay. It's important to realize, and it's important to understand that when we're actually fasting on Tisha B'Av, and when we remember the things that happened to Am Yisrael during 2,000 years since the destruction of the Second Temple and 2,500 years since the destruction of the First Temple and 3,000 years since leaving Egypt, every moment and every second that we are part of this day of Tisha B'Av, that we behave and we understand this day is not a unique day. This day is a day of mourning, is a day of focusing on the harder stuff that happened to our nation during the history. So in some way, we combine ourselves towards a higher collective place. We combine ourselves towards a place that we are part of all the mourners and all the people that felt the sadness during the history of the Israelites, during the history of the Jewish nation. It's easy la'avod et Hashem b'simcha. It's easy to worship God through happiness. That is, everyone loves worshiping God through happiness. But Tisha B'Av is offering us, I think, a unique way to worship God through remembering, through trying to remember the things that didn't happen to us as It didn't happen to me as Aviad, but it happened to my nation. And remembering that is becoming part of the collective, is becoming part of the bigger group, is becoming part of the Jewish remembering, of the Jewish zikaron, a zikaron Yehudi, and is understanding and realizing that every person that remembers the destruction of Yerushalayim, every person that cries on Yerushalayim, the prophet says that every person that will cry in Yerushalayim, in some way will also see Yerushalayim being rebuilt. Doesn't mean he will see it in his own eyes. Doesn't mean that he will come and see actually Yerushalayim being rebuilt. But it means that every person that his spirit, that his feelings, that his inner soul is so connected to Jerusalem, is so connected to this concept, this idea of a house of prayer to all the nations. So when you're so connected, so the Midrash says, as we saw before, that every Tisha B'Av, Mashiach is reborn. Every time when you're sad about something, so hope starts again. And every person that will be mourning on Tisha B'Av, so he helps the collective to rebuild the house of prayer of all the nations. I have another 5 minutes, and I really want to listen and to hear from you guys if there are any special questions you want to ask. I don't have a lot of time. I have another class to teach in 7 minutes exactly. So I'll be more than happy to hear if there are any questions that I can answer fast, and just also hearing your voice. I think it's really important.
Okay, I have a quick question. This year,
yes, shalom.
Tisha B'Av, shalom, it's Ora. So I have a quick question. This year it's going to fall on a weekday, and most of us have to go to work. So we learned prior before now that some people are, if you're going to work, forced to work on Tisha B'Av, you can put sand in your shoes to be uncomfortable and all that. So is that what are measures one can enforce going to work on that day, and also feeling and remembering and not forgetting what we are supposed to do on that day?
So first of all, part of the laws of Tisha B'Av, and I will send you the presentation, is above of not eating and not drinking, is also wearing shoes that are not shoes from leather. Shoes that are shoes from rubber or silk or different material. So that's first of all something to remember. But second, and I think that's even more important than that, the beautiful thing about remembering is that remembering is happening mainly over here. It happens in your head. It happens in your spirit, in your soul. Remembering happens over here, in your nefesh. It doesn't happen only outside. So even if you need to go to work, and our nation lived a lot of years not in the land of Israel and not in an independent state, and a lot of people had to go to work on Tisha B'Av. The question is not if you're going to work and not going to work, but if you do remember this year this day is a important day. Firstly, it's a pleasure. Thank you. Is how about the wearing of tails of katan? I have no idea what it means. I don't know what is tails of katan. So I can't answer something that I don't understand. Talit katan. Talit. Talit katan, tzitzit, there's no problem. The problem is talit gadol. Talit gadol is a symbol of glory. Talit katan is a symbol of a mitzvah, and there's a difference between the two. So therefore, talit katan, tzitzit, there's no problem at all wearing on Tisha B'Av. A beautiful question. Yes, another 2 questions.
Shalom, shalom, Rav.
Shalom.
My question is about the young people who could fast on that day, but for some reason they couldn't, for one thing or the other. If they don't have ability to carry on throughout the normal time the fast should end,
Yeah.
Are they allowed to stop, for example, like say 3 p.m., 4 p.m.?
So first of all, it depends how you feel. But if you feel this year that it's too hard for you, so yes, you're supposed to stop, drink a little bit of water, eat a little bit of food, and then go on fasting. Okay? The fact that you stopped fasting because it was too hard and too difficult doesn't mean that afterwards it's a regular day. The day stays Tisha B'Av if you fast or you don't fast. So the real answer is, even if you had to stop, so eat a little bit, drink a little bit, and then go on fasting until the end of the day. Okay? Understood? She'ela achona, last question. Someone has. Okay. So,
Another question?
Okay, shalom.
Shalom.
Not really a big question, but it should be a minor one. What I want to ask is, the Rav talked about that the people from the age of 65 and children. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You talked about people from the age of 65 and that of the infants that they are not permitted to fast. So my question is, them not fasting, are they permitted to be, let me say, in the synagogue where other persons are observing the fast? That's I was thinking about that. So I want to hear your views.
Again,
Did you get me?
Fact that go on.
Yeah, okay. I'm asking if the people who are not fasting on that very day, that's people above the age of 65. Mm-hmm. Now, will they as well participate with other persons who are observing the fast in the synagogue?
Yes. So, I don't know what, I will say 3 different things. First of all, I don't know what is laws of social distancing in Nigeria. It's more important to keep social distancing than fasting and from coming to synagogue. Okay? That's first of all. Yeah. Second, if they're able to keep social distancing and to be safe and come to the synagogue, okay. But if not, so they shouldn't. Third, even that they don't fast, it's still Tisha B'Av. And therefore, they still should feel that this day is a day of mourning. It's not a regular day. It's a day that they shouldn't seek after pleasures, shouldn't seek after the best food that they can eat. They should take it light. But at the same time, it's more important of chai b'im, to live, than to fast in this year, precisely. Next year, Be'ezrat Hashem, everything will be better. Next year, Be'ezrat Hashem, everything will be, and we'll have a vaccine and we'll be fine. And the world will be a better place for everyone. But this year, the chai b'im is way more important than anything else. And every person that doesn't feel well,
all right,
I'll answer that in a second. I'll answer in a second, and then Danielle, and then we'll finish. Every person that doesn't feel well, any person that is a little bit sick, and any person that has a fear that he has the COVID-19 or a different disease that can harm him, he shouldn't fast. Regarding sleeping on the ground, so some people say you should, some people say you shouldn't. My advice is whatever makes you feel that today is Tisha B'Av, you should do. And again, this year, sleeping is important because sleeping gives your body strength and gives your body power. And therefore, everyone should sleep normally. And again, this year is unique. And we are commanded more than everything to fulfill the mitzvah of v'chai b'hem than any other mitzvah at all. That is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to do. That is what God wants us to do, way more than everything else. So I need to run. It was a pleasure. I will email the presentation. And thank you very much to everyone that listened. And thank you to Hannah, Gadi, Neta, for the opportunity, and keep on with the good work. B'ezrat Hashem.
Hello everyone. So the Rav is gone, but remember the Rav is still, you met the Rav and he gave a fantastic lesson. Remember, he's still there on the WhatsApp group with the questions. So if anybody has any more questions he wants to ask, go on and ask them in the group. Even more, if you have anyone that wants to go in the group, make sure to come in the group and ask questions. At the beginning, we asked a lot of questions, I remember, but now it went down. And as I know the community in Nigeria, you have a lot of questions. And questions is good. This is how you study. So make sure you go there and ask questions. So I get Mashu?
Very good seeing everyone, and I'm very happy that you've met the Rav after you've been talking to him without knowing him, without like experiencing a lesson with him. So I hope you take Gadi's advice and you keep asking questions and use this opportunity to learn, because he's very willing, and also Rav Sarel, the other Rav, and also Shira, Rabbanit Shira, which is also available, of course. That's it.
And I have to say, for me personally, it's amazing to see all of you here. You can do unmute, all of you. If you want to speak, just do unmute. If you want to say something. But just for me, it's amazing to see all of you again in those times. It's in the minute August. And as August comes, usually it would be a time when we all meet face to face in the seminar. But this year, the Corona, as the Rabbi said, made all the plans change. But we're wishing for it to happen and to finish and to keep going with the hard work and what is going on here. And I know that in future, Hannah and Neta will go to Nigeria for another seminar, and we'll meet all of you again. And just before we're ending, I just wanted to ask, what do you think about, if anybody wants to say something and contribute, it's amazing. And what do you think about this platform of lessons? Do you think it's working? Do you like it? Do you think we should keep doing those things? What do you think in order that we can make it better for next time? And just to say a lot of thank you for Elozai to organize this meeting and lesson in Nigeria. It's not easy. It's very tough. I know it's very tough over there. And Elozai always put a big effort to make this happen. So, Toda Rabba Elozai. Toda.
Toda Rabba.
Please, what do you think about the lessons?
I think it's great. Just like Hannah said, we are trying to bring, we've had one meeting, one class with the women, and there wasn't a lot of turn-ups. Only, I think it was just one person, that was me, and Hannah with Shira. And we would love for women from the communities to also participate